Hello, I'm Rebecca Greenberg, and I lead the Bioethics program at Sinai Health in Toronto. I hope that sharing some of my reflections about working during COVID-19 may be helpful for you in your workplace. As a bioethicist, I've often asked to weigh in about whether certain actions or decisions are good or bad, right or wrong, ethical or unjust. COVID has turned so much of what we usually understand to be the best way to do something upside down. Over the last number of months, my colleagues and I have struggled with trying to navigate so many ethical dilemmas which are new and unfamiliar. In an ethical dilemma, there's a genuine uncertainty about how to proceed, and that uncertainty can cause distress. I've also seen many of my colleagues feeling distressed because they're in a situation where they're asked to behave or act in a way that they don't feel is correct or ethical. In bioethics, we call this phenomena moral distress. Being in a position where one feels their integrity, safety, professionalism is compromised is really a horrible place to be. In my work, I've learned that at times like this, it can be helpful to ask myself questions. For example, I've asked, what is the relevance of my discomfort? Would it be reasonable for me to feel comfortable in a situation like this? Is my discomfort a sign of wrongdoing? Or perhaps it's a sign that I care about my job and the people in my work life and my home life. Having worked through these problems for a few months now, I've come to think that experiencing moral distress is an occupational hazard for almost anybody working in COVID-19, no matter what profession they're in. Here's what I found helpful to think about during these challenging times. When any of us feel this distress that comes from acting or behaving in a way that we don't believe is correct or ethical, we often conclude something's wrong, but perhaps that's not so, especially now. Here's an example I want to share from my own life over the last few months. For a while, I'd come home, I wouldn't feel good, and I'd feel I was no longer doing a good job at my work. I didn't have that sense of mastery and comfort in what I was used to doing. That was mainly because all the ways that I used to measure the value of my work, my professionalism, my productivity, or my success, they'd changed. I was surrounded by situations that honestly felt so incredibly uncomfortable. I'm used to thinking about what's best for the person and the people in front of me, and sometimes, but not usually, about the entire collective as a society. It was really hard for me to make that transition to a different way of thinking that puts a greater emphasis on the well-being of the society at large than on the people in front of me, to think first about the greatest good for the greatest number of people. It took me time to shift, to adjust, but I came to understand that during a pandemic, we need to make that shift. During a pandemic, our actions are, and they often should be, focused beyond just those we see or touch. Our actions need to support society as a whole. We often use our emotions to help guide us between right and wrong. When we feel uncomfortable, it's usually a sign to do things differently. For example, when we're unkind or we lie, we feel guilty, and we use those feelings to tell us that we're not acting in the best way. However, COVID's different. I'm not sure it's possible or desirable to feel good or comfortable at this point. In the upside down situation we're in, uncomfortable feelings, they have a place. They're an opportunity for reflection, for learning. We need to think about these feelings differently. I've learned to make space for discomfort and find new ways that I feel I'm doing my job well. I've worked on self-compassion and kindness and embracing that my discomfort is a strength, not a weakness nor a sign of wrongdoing. This way of thinking has been helpful to me, and I hope that it might be helpful to you as well.